welcome to another episode of California Limelight. I'm Will Wilson. You know, I feel very grateful for having so many wonderful experiences here in Southern California and especially in the Coachella Valley. There's so much that this place has to offer, with beaches just a drive away to the world-famous Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival and the Stagecoach. There are also iconic events like the American Express PGA Tour, the El Dorado Polo Grounds, which there was a scene in Pretty Woman with Richard Gere and Jason Alexander that was filmed there. How cool is that? There's so much variety in terms of events here, such as the 59th Palm Desert Golf Parade that I attended and the El Paseo Poodle Walk. And how cute is that? There's so many great things here to explore and endless stories to share about this great valley that I hope to put in the limelight. It has been an honor and a privilege to showcase just the tip of the iceberg with an amazing audience like you. So thank you so much for being here. This episode would not have been possible without the exceptional support of Fiesta Ford and Quick Lane Service Department that takes such good care of vehicle repairs and maintenance. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. So speaking of great stories to tell, we're featuring the legacy of Wink Martindale, a legendary game show host, and later on we'll be hearing from the inspiring Johnny Mesa. So stay tuned and let's get the show on the road. Wink Martindale is an American disc jockey, radio personality, game show host, and television producer. In his 6-decade career, he's best known for hosting Gambit from 1972 to 1976, Tic-Tac-Toe from 1978 to 1985, High Rollers from 1987 to 1988, and Death from 1996 to 1998. So let's hear it for Wink Martindale! I'm sitting with one of the most iconic game show hosts of all time, Wink Martindale.
Well, thank you for that.
Of course.
What an introduction.
Well, thank you for joining us on California Limelight.
My pleasure.
So take us back to where it all began. How did you get into television, and especially how did you get into game show hosting?
Well, why don't I start with radio first?
Okay.
Because I was 17 years old when I got my first radio job in Jackson, Tennessee. And it was $25 a week on a little 250-watt station. And I went from the 250 to the 1,000-watt station in my hometown to the 5,000-watt station. And then after a couple of years in my hometown, right out of high school, I moved on to Memphis thanks to an audition at WHBQ Radio, which is the same radio station where Elvis Presley's first record was played in 1954. But I was at WHBQ in Memphis during the decade of the 50s and saw the beginning of, really, I watched in awe the beginning of rock and roll in 1954. And then in 59, I came to Los Angeles at my request, thanks to RKO, for whom I worked in Memphis. And I was with KHJ Radio and Television, and then to KRLA, and then I went to Dot Records. I thought I wanted to get out of radio. I was kind of tired of radio. So I went to Dot Records to work as A&R man, and I was there for about 6 months. Didn't like that. Wanted to be back in radio. So I went to KFWB, and then in 1865, I think. No, 1965, I became addicted to a game show on television with Alan Ludden called Password. Remember that one?
Oh, okay. Well.
Yeah. Well, you're a little young. You weren't.
But I've seen it in your vault.
So I used to rush home after I got off the air at radio every day to watch Password. And I became addicted to it. And I thought, this is something I'm going to send my agent out to audition me for. So I auditioned for several game shows. And I think the second or third one, I got it. It was called What's This Song? And it made it to NBC. It was only on for a year, but it got me launched in the world of game shows. And so from What's This Song? Here we are all these years later, and I've either hosted or produced 21 different game shows.
Wow, that's impressive.
Well, it's impressive because it proves I never could hold a job.
What a way of thinking about it. But I mean, you've created quite a legacy from it, of course, as well.
Been lucky.
So, now you mentioned his name already, Elvis Presley. So you were friends with him, and of course you were able to get to know like a different side to him. So, what was your memory of him, and what was your friendship like with him?
Well, I met him one night in 1954. I was at WHBQ Radio. Showing some friends around the station because I shouldn't have been there at night because I was the morning man. But I heard a commotion coming out of Dewey Phillips' studio. He was a wild DJ at night from 9 to midnight on that radio station. And so I excused myself from my friends, and I went in and I said, what's going on? And what happened, Sam Phillips, who founded Sun Records, walked in with an acetate that he had cut just 2 hours earlier by a truck-driving singer for Crown Electric Company called Elvis Aaron Presley. It was a song called That's All Right Mama. And Dewey Phillips played it, and the switchboard lit up, and people couldn't get enough of it. He played it over, and it played 14 times in a row. And that was the beginning of Presley Mania. And, of course, we wanted to see what this guy looked like. We knew what he sounded like on this record, but I was the one nominated to call his mom and dad and find out where he was so we could get him to come down to the station. So Mrs. Presley answered the phone, and her name was Gladys, and I said, Mrs. Presley, where's Elvis? She said, well, he was so nervous about his record being played, he went to see a double feature at the Suzors, a double feature Western. So they went down, walked up and down the dark aisles, found Elvis sitting there all by himself watching this Western movie, brought him down to WHBQ Radio. I met him that night, and then he became my friend for the rest of his days.
That's incredible. And Elvis fans might recognize something very significant about the jacket that you're wearing. Is that right?
Yeah, this is a version that Elvis, wore in the movie Speedway. So if this looks familiar to you, I didn't steal it from Elvis. I just bought it at a store in Memphis.
Just copied it, right?
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, so what was some of the behind the scenes of the game show, of your game show history and career? What were, I don't know, what are the things that most audiences would never know or see?
Well, most people ask me, of all the shows that I've either hosted or produced, which one was my favorite? And my answer is always the same because it gave me the longest term of employment. It bought my house. It was called Tic-Tac-Dough. And I did that for 12 years. And I did other shows, most recently one called Debt for Disney, where we paid off young people's credit cards up to $10,000. And I did one with Big Dice called High Rollers. And I did a 21 game, now there's a show called 21 Connection on Game Show Network, but it all began with my show on CBS, which was called Gambit, and it was Get to 21 Without Going Over. Did that for 5 years. That was really my first truly successful network game show. And then from there, I just, went from one show to the other. One would be successful. One wouldn't be as successful. One might last 2 years. One might last a year. But, of course, I finally hit on Tic-Tac-Dough in syndication, which lasted for 12 years for Barry and Enright Productions.
So you mentioned your favorite, of course, but what are some of the highlights, not just of each game, but what were some of the highlights, like maybe the Ed Sullivan Show? What stood out to you?
Well, my only association with the Ed Sullivan Show, of course, was when I made a record in 1959 called Deck of Cards. Story about a soldier who used a deck of cards in church because he didn't have a Bible. And most people who know Wink Martindale associate me with the record Deck of Cards because it's sold to this date worldwide over 3 million copies. And so I got to do that. It became so popular. Went into the top 5, made it to number 4 on Billboard and Cashbox. Got an invitation to appear on the Ed Sullivan Show in New York, which was really a big deal at the time because I was still in Memphis working, and to be on the Ed Sullivan Show was really quite something.
So, and you keep busy nowadays. I've seen you out and about in Palm
and about.
Springs.
Out and about.
Are you making fun of my Canadian accent?
Yes, I am.
Probably.
No, I love your accent.
Oh, thank you. I don't think I have one, but thank you. So I've seen you out and around, and you're making lots of public appearances and supporting the community as well. And you've also written a book. So tell us about some of those endeavors.
Well, I wrote this book. Actually, it came out in the early 2000s. I think 2002 it first was published. And I couldn't find a publisher for it because I didn't put any smutty stuff in there, any dirty stuff. And I couldn't find a publisher who would take it on without that. And so I ended up self-publishing it. And, of course, I didn't sell as many as I would if I'd had a big-time publisher. But it's done very well for me. And I have a copy for you, by the way, Will.
Thank you so much.
Cameraman. And it's just really been I've enjoyed, I feel, my word is blessed. I feel very blessed because you asked me a while ago about things that have happened that are of unusual nature on game shows. And the one that always sticks out in my mind was on Tic-Tac-Doe. Every fall, we had an over 80s tournament where all the players were over the age of 80. About your age. Just kidding. All the players were over the age of 80. And I was doing a little conversation back and forth with Dr. Reba Kelly, one of the players. And I said, Dr. Kelly, at your advanced age, she was 96. I said, do you ever consider dating anymore? And to my surprise, she said, yes, Wink. I have 4 boyfriends. I said, really? 4 boyfriends? She said, yes. I get up in the morning with Will Power. I take a walk with Arthur Itis. I come home with Charlie Horse. And I go to bed at night with Ben Gay. And so when anybody asks me, what has happened on a game show that caught you completely unawares? It was that comment from 96-year-old Dr. Reba Kelly. I mean, she was sharp. We had to stop tape for about 10 minutes while we composed ourselves.
Oh, that's a great memory. So how is your view reflecting on it? Instead of experiencing it while your career was happening, what is some of your reflections of your career, especially now in your retirement years?
Well, in looking back, like I said, I feel very blessed. I had no intention, no idea of ever getting into the world of game shows. As a kid, before television, I listened to radio all the time. I was afflicted with radio. I wanted to be on the radio. And I knew that from the time I was about 8 or 9 years old. I used to listen to radio game shows, and they were very popular. Strike It Rich. Oh, I could name several. But that got me interested in the world of game shows in television when later I did indeed get into TV. And of course, I got into TV not through game shows. I was in Memphis, sort of the Dick Clark of Memphis in those days, when Dick Clark had American Bandstand. I did a show on Saturday afternoon for 90 minutes, sponsored by Coca-Cola, called the Wink Martindale Top 10 Dance Party. And I even, because I had met Elvis in 1954, in 56, when he came to Memphis from doing his first movie, Love Me Tender, he actually came on my show. And of course, by then, everybody wanted to get their hands on Elvis. But fortunately for me, mine was the first filmed interview that he ever did. And I still have pieces of that interview from 1956.
My goodness. Well, it sounds like you really lived up to your childhood dream, and that
did.
Yeah, and that you were really determined, driven, and you had to experience a lot of different kind of different games and different avenues to get to where you were.
I heard once when I was very young, and it's turned out to be true. Find something that you really and truly love to do, and you'll never have to work a day in your life. I was lucky in that regard. I wanted to be on radio, And then I got on television, and I enjoyed a modicum of success. And don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Well, that's pretty great advice. So thank you so much for joining us on California Limelight. It's really cool to have you.
That's okay. I got another hour.
It was an honor to sit next to Wink Martindale and capture his story on Limelight. All right, top trends. Did you know that the timeless classic It's a Wonderful Life almost never made it to the big screen? Yes, the heartwarming Christmas film that had captured our hearts nearly didn't happen at all. Back in 1938, during a routine morning shave, Philip Van Doren Stern had a stroke of inspiration. His idea was simple yet powerful, a tale of a stranger intervening to save a despairing husband and father on the verge of ending his life on Christmas Eve. Stern, an esteemed author and editor, penned a draft of this heartwarming narrative. However, when he had pitched it to his literary agent in 1943, it failed to find a buyer. Undeterred, Stern decided to print 200 copies of this story as a pamphlet titled The Greatest Gift, A Christmas Tale, sending most out as holiday cards and submitting two to the U.S. Copyright Office and the Library of Congress. In a twist of fate, RKO Radio Pictures acquired the film rights in 1944, intending to cast Cary Grant. However, it wasn't until a new script and the involvement of Jimmy Stewart that It's a Wonderful Life began its journey to the silver screen. Despite garnering 5 Oscar nominations, the film initially struggled financially. By 1948, Capra sold the film studio. Then, ownership of It's a Wonderful Life changed hands several times, and the film's copyright lapsed in 1974, leading to the widespread airing on television stations. Without royalties, the movie became a beloved holiday tradition for TV viewers, yet it generated no income for its owners. It wasn't until 1994 that the Republic Pictures regained the copyright through legal proceedings, later selling it back to Paramount in 1998. Truly, it had been an extraordinary journey for a story that almost faded into obscurity. It's a Wonderful Life stands as a testament to resilience and the enduring power that a tale that almost slipped through the cracks. And wow, it is amazing to me to think that all the stories that each and every one of us could share, and that a powerful story like that one was well written, well directed, well acted, and it became a classic almost never happened. But of course, I believe that it was the persistence and ambition of Stern and many others who were passionate about this story that it really brought this unconventional story to light. So it is truly a classic that I love and I love to watch every year. All right, it's time to tune back into the community. Johnny Meza is an incredibly talented musician, but he also gives back to his community through his foundation, The Spirit of the Desert. His foundation provides musical learning opportunities and scholarships for young minds of the desert. Johnny has an impressive track record of over 30 years as a solo performer and leading bands in top-notch spots like 5-star restaurants, corporate events, exclusive country clubs, and grand concert stages. So let's hear from the man himself, Johnny Meza.
Come fly with me, let's fly away. If you can use some exotic booze as a bar in far Bombay, come fly with me, let's fly away.
I'm sitting right next to Johnny Meza. So thank you so much for joining us. You have a lot going on in your life here.
Well, thank you, Will. It's my pleasure to be here. Yes.
So you perform at some of the most remarkable venues. So tell us about your performing career, but what got you started?
Well, going back to my hometown, San Bernardino, and my mother played piano by ear, and everyone, my siblings, we all kind of took up an instrument in school. My older sister played clarinet, my brother played trumpet, another sister played violin, so we all took up an instrument. I took up drums early on, and then later switched over to guitar when the Beatles came out, because I saw that John and Paul were getting more screaming girls than Ringo. So So I just say, well, let's go. So about 12 or 13, I started playing guitar and taught myself some chords and had some friends, and we'd get in the garage and play and, just do like, Rolling Stones or Beatles or whatever was playing, pop of the time of the 60s. So yeah, that's how I started.
So you had a very musical family. What was that like in the evenings when everyone was home trying to practice their instruments? What was that like?
Well, you know the word cacophony? That means like a mixture of everything, like a circus going on, and you can't tell. But actually, no. We all had our own little practice time. We felt sorry, though, for our sister who played violin because of all the family. She was tone deaf. And whenever she'd practice, it sounded like out of tune, like a cat was being tortured.
No.
And then went to junior college and studied theory and musicianship and composition and started playing piano about that time. I switched over from guitar and then played Hammond organ in bands.
Wow, that's very neat. So what was your journey making it here to the desert and you play at really amazing venues like the Ritz-Carlton?
When you feel your friends desert you, there's somebody thinking of you. Tell the one.
I started writing when I was about 14, 15. I'd get into my little piano in the garage and start writing my little songs that I thought were going to be, smash hits. But anyway, we would play in clubs, pretty much, and I usually played with horn bands, usually 6 or 7 piece horn bands, and I played Hammond organ. I have a rhythm section with a trumpet sax, and so we did a lot of cover songs from the era, Doobie Brothers, Chicago, Tower of Power, and all that stuff. I worked with a wonderful lounge group at Caesar's Palace called Company's Company on Cleopatra's Barge. One night I was walking to our dressing room backstage, and Mr. Sinatra, Frank Sinatra, had just finished a concert, or his performance there actually, and he was walking down the hallway, and I just had a brief discussion with him and said hello to him, got to meet him, and he said, where do you live? I said, well, I live in, Southern California. He says, well, move to Palm Springs. We got a lot of music there. So I did. So I moved to Palm Springs, and and it's been, next year it'll be 30 years that I've been here performing, and I started at the Riviera Hotel, and I play country clubs and restaurants, and I've done concerts at the Idlewild Jazz Festival. So it's been good for me.
Dirty martini.
What else is keeping you busy is the Spirit of the Desert Foundation.
Yeah.
What got you inspired to do something like that?
In 2020, my wife and I, Tracy Meza, we decided, let's start a nonprofit and let's work on getting musical instruments and instruction to kids in elementary school or, middle school too, or in high schools, mainly working with students in school.
What value does even learning a recorder for a kid bring to the world and to them as well?
Good question. We're hoping that it inspires them to go further with their music. With the recorder, of course, you can play clarinet, saxophone, trumpet, any other wind instrument. We try to, and also we have our programs director, I want to mention his name, Tony Bolivar, who's a wonderful sax player, and we've performed together for many years. We're currently teaching at, 4 schools, which will, by the end of the year, will have taught ukulele and recorder to about 360 kids. It's been a very fulfilling life for me. I've been very blessed to be able to continue to play music. And, what other job can you have where you can go and play and people come up to you and say, hey, that sounded really great. Or, my wife and I are celebrating an anniversary and you played our song, or it's my birthday. And we try to make it special.
So no plans on quitting then, right? You're going to play for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
then, right?
Musicians, they don't retire. Usually we can't, but no.
All right, well, that's great. So we have lots to look forward to for your foundation and, of course, your musical talent. So
Great.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Limelight.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Johnny. Up next is one of my favorite segments to work on, The Other Side of Hollywood. Have you ever wondered what Julie Andrews has been up to lately? The enduring impact of the 87-year-old's remarkable Hollywood career, marked by unforgettable singing and acting performances in iconic movies like Mary Poppins, The Sound of Music, and The Princess Diaries. However, in 1997, Andrews underwent throat surgery that sadly hindered her professional singing career. The beloved entertainer shifted gears within her established profession, venturing into a new creative avenue by co-authoring children's books with her daughter, Emma Walton Hamilton. Their most recent fictional work, The Enchanted Symphony, drew inspiration from the real-life events during the COVID-19 pandemic. A Barcelona opera house adorned the seas with plants as people were unable to return to public spaces. And my goodness, that is so cute, and plants are great listeners. All in all, Julie Andrews takes a lot of joy working with her daughter and coming up with creative and fun stories to tell. Up next, former First Lady Rosalynn Carter, who dedicated her life to public service and a passionate advocate for mental health, has sadly passed away at the age of 96 in her home in Georgia. Rosalynn Carter and her husband, former President Jimmy Carter, aged 99, shared an extraordinary love story that spanned over 8 decades, as they have known each other for nearly their entire lives. Their relationship began in their hometown of Plains, Georgia, setting the stage for the longest marriage in presidential history, lasting over 77 years until Rosalynn's passing. It was revealed that Rosalynn was battling dementia, but continued to cherish her last moments with her loved ones. The Carter Center, the humanitarian organization founded by the couple, announced that on November 17th that Rosalynn had entered hospice care at her home, surrounded by her family. Rosalynn Carter leaves behind a legacy of compassion and dedication. Her commitment to social causes, including supporting mental health care, human rights, social justice, and the needs of the elderly. Her unwavering devotion to improving the lives of others will not be forgotten. We extend our deepest condolences to the Carter family and all those who have been touched by her kindness. And that's it for The Other Side of Hollywood. All right, well, that's a wrap for California Limelight. Stay tuned for the next episodes, where I'll be exploring the Living Desert Zoo and a tribute to the 60th anniversary of the Palm Springs Tramway. All very exciting stuff coming up. But until next time, thank you for joining me. I'm Will Wilson, and see you next time.